By all means.
I tried them. My butt does not like it.
She wanted a sex toy. And I could obviously tell she's nervous. And she's like, can I be honest with you? And I was like, please.
You know, it doesn't have to be a nylon stocking. If you don't want to get started there, try a jock strap. I find them super sexy.
Yeah. And I was like, nope, I'm very
You're
sexual.
good.
I want sex constantly.
Yeah. This giant box of like 14 sex toys. My mom's like, oh, this is here. I'm like, oh, you don't have to open it. Well,
That little sound of the waistband slap.
Wow, it's a great sound.
Can you tell him to get me a toy because I want one? My mom was like, actually, I kind of want one too.
I'm like, so the games
she's still
go.
playing the
They're
games.
so in their 70s.
And I'm like, I cannot wait to pull this thong so far out of my asshole right
Yeah.
now. It is just up there.
Maybe like a tape or something, just like,
Nothing
I don't
will
know.
prevent
No,
it.
it just,
Nothing. If you're blessed with a booty, it's going up.
This episode of Primary Care is sponsored by Rugiette Health. More than just an ED treatment.
This lighting always makes me look 10 times better than I actually do.
No, I'm like, wow.
But
it's great.
Yeah, right? Can't we just bring this with us everywhere we go?
I'm sure this is what Mariah Carey feels
Yes.
like. Like, I'm sure this is it.
It has to be. So this company reached out to me on social media and was like, hey, would you mind, partnering with us? We're a sex company. Well, in my head, I'm like, I don't really use sex toys, but
Yeah.
could be good education for me. So I'm like, yeah, send me, whatever you guys are trying to promote, and I'll look through it. My partner's mom often are at our house and they'll open our mail for us. So I forgot to tell them, my partner as well, that it was coming. So this giant box of like 14 sex toys showed up, and it arrived, and my mom's like, oh, this is here. I'm like, oh, you don't have to open it. I'll get it later. Well, what does she do? She opens it.
Of course.
And so my partner's mom is from Brazil. She speaks Portuguese, no English. My mom speaks no Portuguese. But they interact and they can communicate pretty well. But I'm not sure how the conversation
it's like music.
went. About
a sex toy is universal,
that's
baby.
True. But they died. Well, first, my partner's mom is like super funny and like open to it. So she was probably dying to my mom's response. But I'm just glad that she got to see them. And my reaction was, so what? It's not a big deal. You should get some yourself, and
No, 100%. So my mom works at a middle school. When I first started working with like the adult industry, she was like, oh no, this is terrible. Like, why would you do this? And then my godmother, who also works with her, was like, actually, can you tell him to get me a toy because I want one? After she said that, my mom was like, actually, I kind of want one too. And I was just like, oh, but again, it just takes someone perspective and also to make it seem like it's not something crazy and a deviant thing. All of a sudden your perspective changes and you're like, oh, I guess it's not that bad.
It's so true that those little things of opening your perspective, that somebody who you either look up to or you relate to is doing something, you're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. I guarantee more people are doing things that you relate to than you know.
It's just like queer people. Like, you don't know someone who's trans, you don't know who someone's gay,
right? And
then you're like, actually, I have a friend who is trans or is gay. Once you put a face to it and a person behind it, it's not that scary. It's not that bad, right? It's like this, we build it up to be this terrible thing, or it's built up to be this terrible thing, and then you put a face behind it or a person behind it, and you're like, oh, they're just like me.
And that's most people who even vote or politically against a lot of the things that I believe or queer people believe. When you sit and talk to them, we're all pretty much the same. We all just want to feel free, protect our families, ensure the community's moving in, the right direction, and
love and just be free and happy. Like,
exactly.
Nobody cares what bathroom you use. Nobody, like, we just want to be happy. Right. We all gotta pee.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There's just two ways to lead people, I think, is through hope or through fear. And fear is really powerful if people feel like they have no hope. And so when you take away people's idea that maybe something that they get or they have is going to be taken from them from some other group, that's a powerful way to control people. And so
fear can be such a terrifying thing and such a debilitating thing for some people. I mean, I've had a customer once who came in. She was probably like in her early 50s, and her husband were having issues in the bedroom. She was terrified to be in there, and a friend had told her, actually a doctor had told her, to go and just check us out. And she was 100% said that she wanted a sex toy. And so I start talking to her, and I'm just kind of asking her general questions, and I could obviously tell she's nervous. And she's like, can I be honest with you? And I was like, please be honest with me. And she's like, I just recovered from cancer. My body doesn't feel the way it did when we first started together. His body doesn't feel the same way, and I just feel lost. And I was like, look, I could sell you something for selling it. I was like, but you don't need this. I was like, you need a counselor in it. And I think going either together or separately would really be more beneficial to you, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
You know, like you're getting over all these like medical traumas, and then now you're trying to find power in your body again. There's a lot more to it than just a vibrator isn't going to fix it. But that fear of like, I'm broken or I'm alone.
Yeah.
We're the only couple in the world that feels like this.
Right.
It's not the case.
For sure. For sure.
But it's such a debilitating thing.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of couples don't talk about it. Obviously, it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign that maybe they're struggling, and no one wants to present that to their friends or their family. My partner and I can tell when it's been a few days and we haven't had that intimacy together, because it really ensures that we're tied together in that sense. You know, it keeps us on the same wavelength, I think. And I think it's a super important part of a relationship.
Totally transparent. My ex and I, we were together for our 9 years, and towards the end of our relationship, it was not what it used to be. And we were sleeping separately. We weren't really sexually active with each other. I start, like, because my brain is on the sexual side, thinking like, am I like not, is something physically wrong with me that I don't want to have sex? And then we broke up, and I was like, nope, I'm very sexual. Good. I want sex constantly. I was like, it was just our relationship, and we talked about it often, but I think we were both afraid of the inevitable, that we were just not in the same place that we used to be. And when we finally came to that agreement and that conclusion, it was so much better. And now it's just like we get to live our lives however we want and have as much sex as we want.
That's
you know,
how it should be.
Exactly. So if a conversation feels intimidating or scary to have, it's a conversation that should be had.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that goes for a lot of the world, especially when it comes to sex and maintaining a healthy relationship. If the conversation seems scary, you probably need to have it.
Sure.
You know, but
so fast forward to where we're at now. What is your relationship like with your family? So coming from a Catholic Mexican heritage,
it's in a weird place. It's always been weird. So when I came out as gay, which was a shock to them, I don't understand.
Mine too. I don't either.
I was like, really, bitch? I was in the bathtubs pretending I was fucking Ariel.
Same.
Singing songs from The Little Mermaid.
Absolutely.
And they were like, he loves girls.
He loves girls.
Bitch, okay. So that was a shock to them. Oddly enough, I never had to come out as a burlesque performer. They found out.
Oh, that makes it easy.
Well, yeah, kind of. They've actually never seen me perform. They have this idea that I'm on top of people's laps giving lap dances, which, again, there's nothing wrong with.
Right.
But I was like, nah, I'm painted. I'm wearing more layers than a fucking onion. You know, like, I am hot. I am sweaty. I am wanting to take this off. I am hungry.
Yeah.
Sex is the furthest thing from my mind when I'm performing sometimes, that, like, it has nothing to do with that. And I think my dad always thinks that it's like they do it for sexual fulfillment, and I'm like, no, I get nothing. Like it can be fun and flirty, and I think you can do your own version of a burlesque show in the privacy of your own home, right? It wasn't that for me. So they have this idea of what it is and then what I actually do. So since I first started doing burlesque to now, they're now in the process of getting a divorce. Again, lack of communication, which we all saw coming from a long time ago. I feel like it's needed, but it's a difficult journey for them to navigate. They're in their early 60s, navigating single life and dating. Yeah.
I can't imagine dating. I mean, it's been 4 years since I was dating, and I can't imagine even now at my age trying to go back into that pool.
Well, yeah, being with someone for almost 9 years and then now being single, I'm like, the fuck is happening?
So I have my grandma. She's in her early 80s, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. She was dating this guy, and they were like having issues. She showed me her phone, and I don't get into her personal life because I don't really want to know. But so she showed me her phone. She's like, "Do you like this picture of me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you look great there." So she sends it to this guy who she's like fighting with or on and off with, and then she responds, "Oh, sorry, I meant to send that to someone else." I'm like, "So the game?
Oh, she's still playing the game.
So in their 70s, people are still playing their game. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't date.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it seems like a nightmare.
I'd be like, bitch, at that age, I'd be like, Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Same. But you gotta, I guess, play the games. That's what they're out there
Yeah.
doing. Hey folks, my podcast Primary Care is sponsored by Rougiette Ready, the latest pharmaceutical advancement in erectile dysfunction. This is a sublingual compounded treatment using 3 ingredients, sildenafil, tadalafil, and apomorphine, and it works up to 5 times faster than pills and chewables. We give you a promo code Primary Care for 20% off your first order and free shipping. Now, let's get back to the content.
I love men, but men are trash sometimes. And the things that they say and they do, I'm like, my God.
Yeah, it's interesting too because my partner and I have kind of come into our femininity at the same time and our queerness watching most of it through watching RuPaul's Drag Race. Really, it's really expressed a lot of the same things that I see in a lot of drag queens who I would have maybe 5 to 10 years ago thought I had nothing in common with. We have everything in common. Every time we meet other gay men and as friends and stuff, I always bring up that. Do you watch Drag Race? And so usually they say no, and sometimes after getting to know other gay men too, like they'll say things that are sometimes like homophobic or transphobic or racist, and I'm like, right, and I'm like, it's 2023. I thought the internet might have helped y'all a little bit, but I've also found too is we all live in our own Instagram and our own little social internet bubble. And it really is a bubble. If you are not out there searching for things that are outside of your bubble, you never see it. And so they don't ever see Drag Race on their feed, which is mine is Disney and Drag Race.
Mine's a lot of shirtless, hairy men, and then
there you go.
And then drag queens and burlesque pinups, and I'm like, this is my feed. I'll send her videos sometimes of like TikToks that come up on my thing, and she's like, how are you on this side of TikTok? And I'm like, it just knows me. It knows me. It knows what I like. It knows what I like. Yeah. But again, you're right. Like, if they're not exposed to it, they don't know it, And I feel like as queer people, there's such a common denominator amongst all of us, right? And I think that's just wanting a sense of belonging.
Yes.
So like, why in a group or in a subculture do we want to keep making others feel othered?
I feel like a lot of us have felt so excluded that we find power that was taken away from us by being excluded, by excluding others. Yeah. And that is not a power you want to attach to yourself. You can be a superhero or you can be a supervillain, and that's a villain power. That's not going to lead you down a road of happiness or fulfilling relationships. It's also going to lead you into being in a bubble that you don't get to grow and explore what life really can offer you. I think about it a lot too. Now, as I still present how I dress, mostly masculine, I think there's such a huge feminine side of who I am that I'm starting to really enjoy and love. And I just actually talked to another guest we had about how my partner and I, we have wigs at home that we throw on sometimes, and we try to do the heels, but they hurt my feet. So, but
it's just skill.
Yeah, and most of the underwear and lingerie we buy is mostly for men, obviously, but we still have started to like explore that and like feminine, lingerie that men can wear, and what does that make us feel like? And it's just interesting because I have suppressed that for so long, and it's been such a fun journey to explore with someone else. And I think that would be something I would miss trying to date again, because the people that I interact with that like to go to the gym and do things that I like to do, I've realized are not often on the same page with me and the other things that I enjoy. And I think if it wasn't for Drag Race, I would still be back there too. And it's really interesting how that one sort of TV show really opened me up to so much.
I agree. I think that's fantastic that it did that. And I think again, it goes back to like knowing someone who is like, so if you have a friend who's a drag queen, or if you have a friend who's, you're then now like, oh, they're just a normal person and they like to have fun and get dressed up and feel themselves like, and sometimes it can be gender euphoric, for them, but sometimes it's just fun. You tap into that for yourself and you're like, why have I been suppressing this for so long? It feels so good. I mean, even for myself, like even starting out, like when I was doing burlesque, just kind of without any makeup, just more mask presenting for me. Same. I was like, it felt okay, but it didn't feel better until I started expressing myself how I truly wanted to express myself. Exactly. And then it was just like, all bets are off. Like, when I'm on stage, you can't tell me shit. Like, it feels fantastic. I am in control. And it's so powerful. And I think a lot of people, if they just could tap into that,
Yeah.
for a little bit, they would feel, and it could be queer, it could be heterosexual.
Yeah,
like,
and it could be any space they feel safe. Like for me, I
Exactly.
feel like that's how I feel on social media, because that's my
Yeah.
way of keeping it like one foot in, one foot out.
Yeah.
I can just put it online and kind of watch the reaction from afar, whereas I'm a little bit too shy at this point in my life to like get on stage. Maybe one day, you never
Yeah.
know. But yeah, finding the way to just still feel like you can embrace that part of you, because we all have that sense of wanting to feel empowered, and either someone sometimes has taken it away from us, or we're kind of hiding it from ourselves.
Yeah.
I think just trying to get into touch with whatever that is for you is such a big part of being human and being alive, and a part of fulfilling your life, you know?
Exactly. And it's evolving too. Like, you know, like finding something that piques your interest now is going to grow and change, and you're going to grow with it.
Yep.
And you may not be into it 10 years later,
Right.
but it built a piece of your foundation. It's
Exactly.
added to your foundation, and now you have a much larger respect for people who do enjoy these things.
Right.
Or now you can even explore other elements of it that you didn't think were possible before. I'm glad shows like Drag Race have been able to kind of start that conversation for people.
Exactly.
Because it's really important. On my social media, will sometimes like put it out there for people to send me anonymous questions or comments or whatever. And occasionally it's a lot of people who are thirsty, and I'm totally fine. I put myself out there. It's because I show my ass. It's fine. It's cool. Yeah, I'm welcome it. I accept it.
Same.
But exactly. But there are some people who they'll tell me like, because of you, I now start to wear lingerie for my partner.
Yeah.
And I feel so excited to do that. And it's added a new element into our sex lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hetero couples, sometimes it's two guys, and now they're wearing lingerie around each other and they're having fun with nylon stockings on and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that's fantastic. The fact that like that makes me feel good, because it makes me feel like, even though sometimes what I feel like I'm not contributing to society,
right.
It gives me a little bit of like, no, I have a little bit of purpose on this earth. You know, like I feel like I've done a little bit of something. So it makes me feel like, okay, validation at its best is when I can hear that it's caused a little bit of a positive impact.
I'm sure you probably have, I think, you know, impacted so many more people than you can imagine. I think you live super authentically, which is what most people can never achieve throughout their whole life. And so for people to be able to have met you and to see what you're able to accomplish, I think is even if they don't get the opportunity to really speak with you, I think that your image of who you are resonates with people. I think you have an energy that sort of just explodes from you, and I truly do think that you've probably impacted a lot more people than you imagine, just to try and open their perspective to who am I authentically? Am I being that person? And like you mentioned, you know, it doesn't have to be a nylon stocking. If you don't want to get started there, try a jockstrap. That's what me and my partner post a lot in them, because I find them super sexy. I think they're a lot of fun, and I've never worn one because I thought it was only for a certain type of person, or like
sporting reasons?
Porn star or someone who, you know, was doing something explicit or whatever. I'm like, screw it. We walk around the house in these, and it just adds a spice to our relationship. And maybe someone out there has seen us wear one on our Instagram and said, I'm going to do that too, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just helping people to
that little
feel
sound
empowered.
of the waistband slap.
Wow, it's a great sound.
I know. It's a great
Sometimes
sound.
they're not super comfortable, but if you find the right brand, they can be very comfortable.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And some people, like, you know, they'll like to walk around in thongs, and I'm like, by all means.
I tried them. My butt does not like it. It's not, everybody's different. I don't know. I don't get it, but I'm sure there's something happening for people back there. But for me, I'm like, there's something invading me.
It rides up. You have no idea. Sometimes there have been times where I'm like, you know, after a show and people want, you know, take pictures and stuff. And I'm like, I cannot wait to pull this thong so far out of my asshole right now. It is just up there.
I feel like if I put some like maybe like a tape or something, just like prevent it from like,
Nothing
I don't know.
It's
going in there.
It's going in there. If you're blessed with a booty, it's going up. It's going up.
You know, it's true. I should be more grateful for the fact that I have a booty.
Exactly. But yeah, you know, I think it's find what works for you.
Yes, exactly. That's the whole point. Find what works for you. And if what works for us might be at your Sexology
Yes.
Institute. How can we get there? It's in San Antonio.
It's in San Antonio. We're locally owned and operated, so you can come to Southtown, the King William area of San Antonio. But you can also shop online, sexologyshop.com.
Perfect.
We do ship across the United States. They can follow us at sexology_institute on Instagram, at me at Jasper St. James. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
So much
Look
fun.
forward to next time.
Yes.
Add us on Instagram at Primary Care Pod. Catch up on past episodes and don't miss out on new ones. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify at Primary Care Pod.